Hi everyone, I'm Maira Genovese. I'm the CEO and founder of MG Power. It's very, very exciting to be here at MedFest for the first time. And to share this presentation with me today, I have the lovely Joe. Joe is our head of creative and strategy at MG Power. So Joe, what a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name's Joe McElligott, head of creative and strategy. And today we're going to be talking you through how to build culture through brands, but then also how to use that culture to inform different creative outlets.
So we at MG Power, we truly believe that the culture can have incredible creative shift when we blend culture and creativity to achieve market impact. So what we're gonna do today, we're going to go through how to get that market impact blending culture and creativity. So over to you, Joe, to go through about the culture element.
Lovely. They're disgusting words. I really don't like the word culture. It means far too many things to far too many people. And as of recently, I think we're probably overusing it. I have no intention of trying to define what culture is because I think it's probably impossible. So today what we're going to discuss is how you build culture and hopefully a few tips and tricks to make that more realistic for you and your brands. Essentially, our belief is that culture's shifted. It's not built from the TV anymore. It's not built from your nationalism. It's not built from Hollywood. Actually, our belief is that today culture is very much built from socials and from social channels. Everything you do, every food you eat, every clothing item you choose to wear. Unfortunately, Rishi has recently ruined those for me, but hey ho, is a result of social and social channels. That is our belief, and that is kind of what forms an awful lot of our culture moving forward. So if it's now born from, defined and learnt from social channels, actually, when we start thinking about culture, the beauty of it is that it's kind of ever-changing, and especially when you're relating it with socials, it means that culture is changing as quickly as socials are. So not only is it social that creates culture, but more importantly, in our opinion, is it's actually reactive social that starts to create culture. So how can we create culture through social reactivity? Well, let's talk a little bit about social reactivity first, and then get into a few frameworks that we think will help you moving forward. First point, social reactivity is nothing new. I know we might all think it's new because of the world of Ryanair and TikTok and kind of how they've blown up over the last 2-3 years. Wendy's did this in 2015, wherein they are absolutely ribbing someone on Twitter. And essentially Ryanair are doing the same thing today on TikTok, only they have a better medium format to get it to the masses. I'd also point out that I actually don't think Ryanair on TikTok affects culture that much. Moreover, it's eyeballs, it's attention, it's awareness play. And we'll talk a little bit about how we think you have some moments to understand building culture through reactive content. We think there are 3 different kind of buckets, if you like, that you need to think about when you're creating reactive content that will then inform or create culture. The first is the point of view, essentially making sure you have an opinion on whatever topic, trend, moment that you're jumping on. What's your brand's version of that? The second is a conversation. So it's not enough just to have an opinion. You then need to share said opinion with your consumers, but ask them their opinion on it. And then the third piece, which is often forgotten, is actually not only thinking about how your brand reaches consumers, but actually how your brand acts as a platform for consumer-to-consumer conversations. So that consumer-to-consumer piece is just as important as a brand talking to consumer and vice versa. There's an interesting point around what it can achieve. This is probably for the client side amongst you that are trying to convince your CEO it's worth doing. Just some quick pointers on what it's good at. Brand differentiation, audience alignment, and brand affinity, with some more hard metrics if you wanted to put some ROI stuff on the right-hand side. So that's what social reactive can achieve, but how do we actually do it? So we've got two frameworks, the first of which is how we approach social reactive content to create culture. And we break it down into three separate pillars. One is zeitgeist, so as we move from left to right, we're getting much more micro. So zeitgeist we define as the macro conversations that are happening in your region or around the world at any one time. How can you tap into those bigger conversations? The second is trends and micro trends. We specifically think about this in terms of people's interests and trends within those interests. So for instance, if you are interested in fashion, what are the trends and micro trends within fashion? Is it gorkcore? Is it mob wife aesthetic, etc.? And then the third is much more granular. It's more sounds and formats. You can pretty much pick that up quite quickly. But what sounds and what formats are being picked up on social today? It gets interesting when you start to think about them together, because I think where the issue with building culture lies is that most people, quite rightly, would probably put you into that left-hand pillar, the zeitgeist. You're building culture when you're talking about what other people are talking about in the zeitgeist of the moment. If you are doing zeitgeist without sounds and formats, you're probably lacking the awareness, the reach piece. I think what you'll find Ryanair do really well is this sound and formats, and rarely do they get to that zeitgeist piece. They're very good at jumping on sounds and trends, but actually not really offering much more very often. The trick to success here is not thinking about your reactive content in any one of these three pillars, but understanding that you should try and work out a way of including each one. So for instance, if you recognize an interesting sound or format that is trending, you then have to start telling yourself or thinking, okay, what is my trend or micro trend within that sound and format? What is my larger picture within the zeitgeist that can fit across all three? And it goes back the other way. The other joy of reactives is that people are terrified that they are not reactive enough and they can't get there quick enough. Good news is actually we think you can be late to the party in reactive today. There's just a certain way you have to do it. The good old adoption curve, we think, can be applied to trends. Essentially, if you're an early adopter as a brand, you can think about owning the trend. If you are an early majority, you just simply do the trend once, twice, three if you're lucky. If you are in the late majority, then you have to start to think about what we call flip the trend. I'll get into a bit about what that is in the next slide. And then laggards wouldn't touch it at least for a few months or the year later, unless you really want to go. And time is obviously, it's tricky to put time to trends, but if you were to hold my hands up, early adopters, first few days, early majority, week, 2 weeks, and then late majority, 3-4 weeks later, etc. This is an example. Hands up if you've seen I Want to Find a Man in Finance. Good, okay, good. So you know the trend. It's hard for a brand to own the trend if they haven't made it, and she did a very, very good job on socials of owning that trend. But I think what's interesting is you can see how different brands can jump on the trend. So, that one's... That's the OG sound for those that don't know. Duolingo then very quickly jumped on it. Essentially the same trend, does the same thing. Yes, they put their own spin on it. Which is interesting. But then Ocado, late to the game, this was probably about 3-4 weeks post the event itself, did this. And when we say flip the trend, essentially what we mean is find the base foundational layers of what you think that trend's about. In this case, it was that sound, that catchy sound, but flip something, make it ownable to yourself. And this is what they did 3-4 weeks later. And I think the trick here is, at the moment, that's very much on that right-hand side of the pillar, where we're thinking sounds and formats. Sorry. I would hazard a guess that in a month, 2 months' time, you will see how a sound and format has changed our culture. Whether it's, we can ask Bumble, are people filtering their height differently? Are they searching for men differently? I would hazard a guess that a simple sound and format that feels insignificant will change our culture eventually. So that's the first piece, culture. We now believe it's born on social.
And how about creativity? As this stage is about creativity, let's go to the fun parts now, right, Joe? So as Joe said, so culture now is found on social, but how to combine then social and culture to get to your creativity concept by using data. So how to use data when it comes to create a concept? Joe, you can do one more. Yes, here we go. We thought that it would be, great to bring you an example how we have created this campaign for Sol de Janeiro. Not sure if everyone knows Sol de Janeiro beauty brand. So Sol de Janeiro is a brand that was founded in Brazil, but it's not a Brazilian brand. It was inspired by Brazil. So the brand came to us at the beginning of the year with a challenge of creating a new campaign to launch their new SPF Real Radiance. And the whole objective, of course, was to launch a new product, but also how to create a campaign that consumers can feel and transport to Rio to really understand the importance of using SPF, but also to make a connection with Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Not so sure if there's any Brazilians here in the audience, but if you do, you're Brazilian? Okay, so you understand a little bit what we're trying to conceive here. So, but to create the concept, we had to look into the Brazilian culture plus the data. And we use social listening in a format of data to understand how the different markets that Sol de Janeiro has a presence has, viewed and perceived Brazil. So we, through social listening, we identified that there was a few pillars that was a common across few markets. So one is, how do you feel when you think about Brazil? What do you feel? You feel about the sun, the glow, the glimmer, and what is the energy when you think about Brazil, especially Rio de Janeiro? So it's the vibe, it's the soul, it's the heart of the Brazilians. And how can we translate a campaign that they will have a tangible experience that they could feel that they were in Brazil through the coconuts, which is very traditional in Brazil, especially by the beach, the surf, the sand, and the palm trees. We come up with the concept that's called the heart and the soul of Rio. But how to create that concept and apply that into a social campaign? So in this case, we decided to do the reverse. Instead of putting a campaign on social first, we decided to create an experience to translate that concept and then getting the impact on social. So what have we done? So we create a pop-up. So let's show the video first and then I'll explain it. Okay, so what we have as a reverse, we use the culture nuance of Brazil plus the social listening, which is the data, and we come up with an idea of creating an experience first, instead of going to social directly. So what we have done, it's a pop-up that can feel Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So there's a lot of elements here. If you have been to Rio, you will straight away recognize the sidewalk of Copacabana Beach. That's the first thing that reminds you about Brazil and Rio de Janeiro. The traditional kiosks where people drink their coconut and their beer, and then also the sand experience and a lot of photo moments. And that's where we connect with the social element and the exposure that we wanted to have with this campaign. So this is how the pop-up looks like in real life. And we had this pop-up across 10 markets, if I'm not wrong. And then creating this experience, of course, we created the social impact that we wanted to create based on the culture of Brazil and Rio de Janeiro.
Okay. So essentially what we see is that once you have the culture through social, you then use social listening to use your data to inform our creativity, which then gives us life beyond social. So how are we using social learnings to live on other channels outside of social channels? And more specifically, it doesn't stop there, because what we want to do in every channel that we're creating outside of social, we believe you should create something in said channel to relate it back to socials, i.e. every experience we make, we should be thinking about how are people sharing this on socials.
And what is the impact here in terms of when you talk about data? So this experience so far has brought over 1,000 people per day per market, over 1 million EMV, and then of course, in terms of sales, the pop-up just don't come to experience the space, but also you can try the product and buy the product. So in terms of growth and revenue, so the pop-up with just 1 month of activation has generated over $5 million just in USA.
So that's kind of, I'll walk through to the next point, but the point here being, once you've used your data from social to inform your creativity, you then need to make sure that whatever channel you're creating in has social moments to go back into creating culture for your audience.
But you can combine experience and social strategy all together. So this is another example where everyone probably knows what is Carnival. So Carnival is the biggest festival of Brazil and is very well known globally. Sol de Janeiro is a brand that was born and inspired in Brazil, so it made sense for us to create a campaign of engagement and awareness that's combined production, social content, influencers, like all the 360 elements of a campaign, because we wanted ultimately with this campaign that I'm going to show you the video to achieve an awareness of the brand, but simultaneously on social, but also through experience. So this experience itself that I'm going to show that we have done the beginning of the year in Rio de Janeiro, we have reached 3 million people physically on the day of the event, plus over 8 million reach in one day on social. So I will show a little video about it. Yes, that's the social impact that we had just in one day. So that singer's name is Ivete Sangalo. She's one of the most well-known Brazilian singers, but she's very well-known internationally as well. So for us, it was important to create a partnership with someone that has a fit with the brand of Sol de Janeiro, but also that represents Brazil outside Brazil. So this is the social impact that we had. And again, just in one day of activation. But the amazing thing about creating experiences like that, you can have impact even beyond social. So we had a lot of impact on press as well globally about this activation.
We love a bit of repetition. If you're going to take one thing away, take this. Email me if you want the deck. And yeah, essentially, you can create really strong marketing impact if you find culture through socials, you use said social learnings to inform your creativity across other channels, and you feed that back into social channels to then recreate culture.
And before we go, we'd love to leave you with this question. So how will culture relevance change with the rise of AI? So AI is, I know, is everyone is talking about and trying to understand how we're going to be creative in the, in the AI world. So I'll leave you with this question, and hopefully next year at MedFest we can be here answering that question. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you have enjoyed.